Hey guys, a little bit more about hip health because I'm a hippie. Now, I'm kind of a former hippie. I'm a hippie in recovery. I'm not in anything right now. So I want you to know that the most vulnerable part of this amazing joint, that this is my pelvis, this is my lower back, this is my sacrum, and ideally these could move. A lot of us, they get stuck. Then the SI joint problems. But let's just talk about the hip a little more today because it's the front of this joint. It's right in here that there's the least bone that would keep this ball joint in its socket. In the back of the joint, there's more that kind of hugs that ball. So we could withstand more pressure from other directions on this joint, and a really secure way to send force through this joint where the bones can transmit more of the energy than the soft tissue that could get strained is when it's not when the pelvis is like this. It's not when the pelvis is like this. Here. I'm doing a back bend with my knees out. Or I'm so, let's see, what's this? Oh, look, I can take my knee all the way out to the side. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about how do we respect this structure even more. And everybody's a little different. You might right now be sitting kind of like this. You might be overarching your back, thinking that you're doing this when you're really just arching your back. So why did I say all this? How do we create more unity? How do we create more peaceful, full body collaboration? That's what I want to talk about. Some of this is inspired by Esther Goclay, some by Frey Faust, some by my Go-To Movement teachers. Many, many teachers I've had over the past. Even Rodney Yee, my first teacher training was with Rodney Yee in his first ever year. So let's start. This place where my leg folds, we call this the groin. I tore my groin again recently, doing one of those things where my knee was too far out to the side. Ah! But not anymore, guys. That's why I'm making this video. I'm done being injured. I'm done taking stupid risks. And we're doing that by focusing on what's most important first. And what's gonna last the longest. And what did our ancestors have to do to survive? How many people had to survive and not have hip problems before my generation? A lot. So there's some wisdom inherent to our body's wisdom that we can tap back into. So just know about a big part of the problem is even well-designed furniture tends to teach the pelvis to be in front of the head. And if you look at people walking, there's a lot of this. And then people are like, oh, I'm so fat. I need to do more sit-ups. I'm so fat. Well, it's a pressure problem because we're sending this force through this soft tissue here when we could instead send more of it through us, through the bone. And then our breathing will get better. All sorts of great things happen. The problem is this thrusting direction of the hips is really hard. It's really hard on this area. And then you walk like this long enough and everybody in their 60s gets a hip replacement who walks like that or who takes crazy risks overstretching like I do. Okay, and I haven't had surgery. I'm not getting surgery, damn it. So that's why moving this way is important. So one is when we're standing, we want to feel that this tissue, that there's a little give here. It's not hard. These are hard groins, soft groins. I don't want to overshoot and be walking around making my back ache. I just want to not be pushing forward. And a lot of where this comes from is when my feet start to get strong again. My feet pushing down in the front of my foot can actually help take the pressure off of here when I get the right strength in my feet. Another thing is as we decompress, whatever tightness is down here from sitting so much, as we decompress, again, our glutes will start getting stronger and we'll be taking some of the pressure out of the front of the hips. But the most avoidable stuff is the stuff that I did to wreck myself. It wasn't even these everyday movements. The most avoidable place was I would thrust my hips thinking it was a cute dance move. Now, and the other thing is, in African dance class, I've watched quite a few classes where people think that we're doing something like this where our hips are more over our feet, and then we start doing what the teacher does if there's some kind of move. Well, our teacher was probably more like here, and they moved to here, where my hips aren't really going very far past my feet. And us copying them, we're starting here and then we're going here. So, especially in something like Zumba where you're only looking at your body in a mirror in the front, or where my feet stay on the ground, then it's just going straight in here. Now there are strategies to offshoot that. One is if my knee turns in or I lift my heels, then I'm guarding this area more. And that's one reason I think capoeira backbends are more from the legs and the upper back. They're not so much just thrusting the hips forward. So we can take the knees forward, we can lift the heels so that it's got less stress here in the front of the hip capsule. The other thing is, like I said, in walking, as we start to right ourselves in the field of gravity, then when we're landing with our hips at this angle, the knee can bow out a little bit, and I can spiral in and wrap this joint. It's really going to build the protection back into the tissue around this joint. That's what the Go-To movement system is based on. So some of the axis syllabus is too. So one thing that needs to happen though is that when the one leg is behind me, that knee can spiral in while the one that I'm landing on is somewhat spiraling out. And this wraps both of the hips in health. So if I'm going to do something like a back bend, my knees would be more inward. I would not be doing this, which is just going to put more pressure in the joint here. If I'm doing, say, a yoga pose where my hips are square, let's say even a split. If I do a split, I'm going to take some of the stress out of my hips by doing it on an angle. So that, but what I was used to force is keep my hips square, and then I would put this leg back like this. Can you see how that's just, wow, that's a mess. So I can keep my hip health by having my hips on diagonals. And then when I'm switching, when I'm transferring weight, whenever I push out of my knee, it spirals in, and when I receive the weight, my knee goes out. So these things are protecting this joint. And one last note, I explained to someone that from a biological, evolutionary biology point of view, back bends are pretty useless. 2/3 of our muscle is on the back of our body, and we can like spring, helping us spring forward, helping us lift things with the big muscles, rather than overemphasizing strengthening the front or stretching the front. What we really want is to restore. Certain places are meant to bend or twist, and certain places are not. So one overall note is, sure, we'll have, there are mild back bends that are functional. Like let's say I was lifting something heavy, I would swing my hips to lift the thing or to throw the thing, right? So first I would use my knees and my feet. Then if I do need to bend my back, I would bend at the top of the sacrum. I wouldn't just do it here or just do it here. And I would use the top of my, even if I was swinging an axe, for example, I don't have one handy. It might be that to get the most, to load the sling, the fascial sling the most, maybe there's a mild back bend that I need, but I'd want that to be in the upper chest. I'd want it to be at the base of my sacrum and my knee and my foot, not all in one place. And the thing is, since we've been sitting in chairs, it's likely we'll just go to our weakest spot. We'll just go at our ribs. Or we'll, and therefore, we skip all the places that are hard to open. So training on purpose to keep my ribs in while I fold at the top of my sacrum, where the lumbar can bend quite a bit on the sagittal plane. And then also taking my collarbones to help reach the top of my spine into a back bend. Then I add maybe knees and feet. Now you're talking a shape that would have strength, boom, so that it could transmit a lot of force. And that makes it functional. Anything that makes you weaker is just a status symbol. So much fashion is like, I am so bound and weak. I must be rich. Let's set a new standard, which is the old standard, which is freedom of movement is health and wealth. And we just have to do the best we can with whatever we're starting with. But the most important thing is, let's not on purpose do things that are against our design, guys. Bye.